right now. Brought to you by Ford and your North Texas Ford dealers. Ford is the best in Texas. It is Dallas Cowboys owner and general manager Jerry Jones. Good morning, sir.
Hey, man. Good morning. I'm about an hour into my 9 to 5. Looking for work.
Well, let's start with that. I know football was at hand, but did you get an opportunity to stop down, watch Dolly Parton, and what were your thoughts?
Well, it was such a real privilege to know that Dolly Parton was going to be donning those Dallas Cowboy cheerleader uniform and basically step out there in front of maybe as many as 50 million people. It was surreal, and boy, is she special. And she, of course, probably is the most sought-after entertainer there is for any event. And so we were just all emboldened and excited that she was going to be at the halftime. It means so much because she's a part of the Red Kettle campaign. As a matter of fact, she gave $1 million to the Red Kettle campaign. And for her to be going to those millions of people across the country, there's no question that it will increase the generosity of Americans in the Red Kettle by millions of dollars just from Dolly Parton being there at halftime.
Now, there was so much positive happening in the game yesterday, but as you can probably guess, we've already spent a lot of time talking about DaRon Bland. I know the game was out of reach at that point, but how incredible was it to see DaRon Bland set the NFL record and make another pick six?
I'm just stunned because when you think about those are touchdowns that he's returning, and not just the interception, but the touchdown. But I was really impressed with our coach who spent a little time during the draft evaluating him and was talking about how he had a natural instinct for breaking on the ball on the out route, which is obviously gives you a chance to really get the interception. And not everybody does that instinctively. And he was talking that he didn't have to coach that. He does that instinctively. So I know this. I've been in a lot of locker rooms being a part of the Cowboys, and before that with my college teams. I have never seen the emotion and the sheer being in his shoes and pride for what he has accomplished and how he is about that personally. And there's no doubt in my mind it has added to the basis of what kind of team we've got. It was inspirational in that dressing room when those guys were sharing that interception with him and knew they'd broken an NFL record.
Jerry, I just can't think of any Cowboy off the top of my head. Miles Austin comes to mind, where there was an injury and a person had to step into a bigger role that they had. And I can remember Miles Austin doing it, but would you say DaRon Bland stepping into somewhat the shoes of Trayvon Diggs with the injury is the greatest step-up opportunity you've seen in your time with the Cowboys?
Well, I've got to say that when Dak Prescott stepped up for the injury of Tony Romo is pretty impressive.
That's a good one.
And so impressive that when Tony got well enough to come back and play, which was in the playoffs that year, Dak kept the job, and the rest is history. And believe you me, Romo was ready to go as we went into the playoffs, and we couldn't stop him at practice, Romo. Yet there, Dak Prescott had not only established himself as the quarterback, the team leader. That was impressive too. But Bland's accomplishment here does not in any way need to be overshadowed. You just asked me the question.
Now, the turkey leg celebration after Turpin's touchdown, is there any way you can convince the NFL to send all that fine money to the Salvation Army?
Absolutely. And we tongue-in-cheek, I've always, the very red kettles on the back of the end zone that we keep out there not only on Thanksgiving Day, but for all the other games, those are not, those have issues with the rules. And so literally it's been implied that they need to come down. We can't have those kinds of things or similar around the playing field. And so I've said, we'll argue about that one, guys. Matter of fact, we'll argue hard. We'll go all the way to the Supreme Court with it. All you're doing is helping remind people about the Red Kettle campaign in this country and causing millions to come to the people that don't have Santa Claus or shoes or, for that matter, food or a place to stay. So let's argue about it.
Jerry, blowing out
teams.
Sorry about that, Jerry. Jerry, blowing out teams in college football happens all the time. There's just a huge mismatch of talent in college football at times. There's not in the NFL, but this has been the best team I've seen at blowing out NFL teams. Why is this team so good at, when they get an advantage, just pretty much killing the other team by the end of the game?
I think we get to really pin our ears back defensively when we get that lead. We get to be very aggressive with our pressure, and it creates more turnovers. That would be the first very tangible thing. I, too, have been involved in football most of my life, and I've never experienced these kinds of spreads at any level, college or otherwise, and certainly not in the 32 years, 33 years in the NFL. I've never seen these kind of spreads. I can count on my hand before this season the number of times when we've had that kind of spread. So this is phenomenal. It goes to show you that as we continue, and we are getting better. Now, other teams are getting better too. You have to deal with the attrition of injury, which comes with it in the NFL. But I know we are significantly better than when we started this season.
Now, as hyped up as we all are, the team is 8-3. Y'all have won 3 straight, 5 of the last 6, and all of that is fantastic. The next 5 weeks, it feels like another level of competition and an absolute gauntlet of a schedule in front of y'all.
Well, the fact that we've got 3 of those at home really is mitigating. I like those home games, and of course, Seattle, Philadelphia, and Detroit pop their heads up at home. So that's quite teams that are coming in here to play us here at home. But we are at home, and here's the thing: with where we are, I don't know how we're going to fare in catching Philadelphia for the division. I, of course, don't know that, but I will say this. That what you have to do when you get in the playoff is win minimum of 3 games, period. And that doesn't account for where you are in the standings. Now, I know if you get a bye, that'd be great. I know if you also have a home field advantage, that is great. In our case, it really is factual and meaningful. But on the other hand, you've got to be a good enough team to win those ball games, to get to the Super Bowl and win the Super Bowl. To me, I see us a team that is gaining on it, getting better and better and better. Now, make no mistake about it, there's 3 or 4 other teams out here that we're going to have to go through to get to a Super Bowl, and they're good to getting better. So that's the horse race.
Obviously, you can only play whoever is in front of you guys. But one of the narratives
Correct.
is, yeah.
By the way, that's who you made the point. Really, I didn't. Who you play that's in front of you on that play, on almost that series, is everything. Not about a bigger picture of, well, look who we've got next week or who we've got the next week. It is about who is in front of you on this series or down.
One potential negative, I don't know if you've heard this, is Washington has fired their defensive coordinator, Jack Del Rio, likely in part because of what happened yesterday. Your thoughts?
Well, of course, Jack is a great friend, former Dallas Cowboy, former neighbor of mine down in Florida. And so my point is that I think a lot of Jack. and know him to be an outstanding coordinator. And I wouldn't, for Jack, for my relationship with Jack, want yesterday to have been the cause at all. And I say that very genuinely. But knowing their coach, knowing their head coach like I do, then I'm not going to say that yesterday was that meaningful, was the straw that broke the camel's back, although I shouldn't get into it and shouldn't even be commenting on to it. It's about Washington. I really respect their coaching staff up there, really respect their new ownership. They're going to really do a great job of making the Washington team what it can be in the NFL. It actually is one of the greatest cities in the NFL to have an NFL franchise.
But wouldn't you also kind of hope that they don't get back to what they could be, so y'all could keep taking advantage of them?
Well, do I have to admit it?
I guess not.
I want to be kind and charitable today.
Okay.
I've had it too good to be wishing anybody else any real negative. But the bottom line is, it goes without saying, we want to win the ball games, and Washington is without a doubt right there is the teams that we want to be better than the most.
Well, Jerry, I know you have a big Thanksgiving with your family this weekend, but yesterday they caught you eating while you were watching the game. What were you? What's your favorite thing to eat during Thanksgiving game at AT&T Stadium?
Hey, someone slipped a piece of that good pumpkin pie, slid it over in front of me, and before I knew it, I had it in my mouth. I know better than to pick up something and eat it while I'm watching that ball game. That'll get shown. But it was good pie. And at that particular point, that felt pretty good.
How important is how important is the Dolphins-Jets game today? Not necessarily like in the standings, but to the NFL as Amazon is trotting out its first ever Black Friday game?
That's a great point you're making there. And it's a very important game because if it does move the needle, and it could, if it does move the needle, it just will be another demonstrative way of showing of what we can do with our audiences. That audience yesterday, I don't know the count on it, but what it will do to move the needle for donations in the Red Kettle is incalculable. And so this one today has that going with it. And if you can, when you can basically see the card punched right before your eyes like sales on the internet as an adjunct to what's going on in the game, that's a great attribute for our games, for the NFL, for everybody involved in it. It's a plus. And so this is an important game for us today.
Could you envision a future in which the Thanksgiving evening game and the Black Friday game also have permanent hosts, or do you think the NFL likes having the two permanent hosts in y'all in Detroit and then the two maybe floating games?
Well, I know this. My great friend, Lamar Hunt, who I just can't say how much he meant to me and his family on my journey to get in the NFL and be a part of the NFL. But Lamar thought that Thanksgiving Day ought to be passed around. And so he asked for a vote, to my dismay, and he got 6 votes to move it. That was probably 15 years ago, and everybody just said no, because the Cowboys do such a great job of presenting it and have gotten our fans acclimated because the Cowboys under Tex Schramm years earlier had taken the game because it wasn't successful. People weren't used to taking that Thanksgiving Day and going to a football game. They hadn't gotten that as a part of their regime on Thanksgiving. The Cowboys had it. And so to his credit, to our fans' credit, in a way it's been earned because of how much we support the game. And then, of course, now it has gotten the note of, or the, I'm going to just say the substance of the audience. And so that vote really was rewarding because you had Detroit and us that could be subject to moving it around, and we got an affirmation that we'd have had it. So all of that's good. We are so appreciative. Again, I can't emphasize enough to have an entity like that Salvation Army with 1.5 million volunteers across this country and those red kettles, and then to have 5,000 officers out here taking the benefit of that in every community and putting shoes on people, giving them shelter, and putting Santa Claus, to have that mechanism to use this visibility to encourage more money to go in the red kettle is unbelievable. That you have that type of visual, then it relates to putting the money in the red kettle. I know of nothing like it, and it's a phenomenon. And to think that in 27 years, the Salvation Army will say incrementally, having that game on Thanksgiving Day has raised them over $4 billion more than they would have raised. Wow. And so it's a phenomena, and it's one of, in my mind, not that alone, but it's one of the real pluses that you have from the athletes that play the game and the pluses of the sport.
Well, we appreciate the time. As always, another big win as you all move into the meat of the schedule. Thank you very much for the time, good sir.
Well, let's keep celebrating our weekend this weekend. This is going to last at least a couple more days.
Absolutely. Thank you, sir.
You bet. Bye-bye.